Yes. Chapter 9, text 30. Api chet su duracharo bhajete mam ananya bhak sadhur eva sa mantavya samyak vyavasito hi sa. Even if one commits the most abominable action, if he, if he is engaged in devotional service, he is to be considered saintly because he is properly situated in his determination. Should I read the next verse?
No, it's okay. This is an
Thank you,
important
brother.
verse. Thank you, bro. Even if one commits the most abominable action, if he's engaged in devotional service, he's to be considered saintly because he's properly situated in determination. Okay, so let's read the previous verse just to understand Krishna's partiality a little bit. So he says, I envy no one, nor am I to partial to anyone. I'm equal to all, but whoever renders service unto me in devotion is a friend in me. I am also a friend to him. Right? So he's saying I'm impartial to everyone, but one who does devotional service to me, I'm a friend to that person, and that person is a friend to me. I'll share a story that will help us understand this concept. There was a king, and the king asked his citizens, his ministers, like, whatever you guys want, you can ask. I want to, make you guys happy. So people ask for land, they ask for money, they ask for riches, they ask for lots of different things. Then he asked his minister. His minister is like, everybody asked for so many things. You didn't ask for anything. What do you want? The minister said, my dear king, I just want your friendship. I don't want anything more than that. And the king was a little surprised. He's like, hey, I understand, that's very sweet of you, but please tell me, what is it that you want? He said, I want you to be my friend, that's all. And I want you to be my friend in the true sense. So in the sense that, if I invite you, you will come over for lunch, we can share our hearts, that kind of friendship. I don't want your riches. King said, okay, very well. I give you my friendship, we will be friends. So the minister was very happy. He said, okay, now that you're my friend, you should come to my house. And the ministers live in a very poor place. He had a tiny little house, and it was the road to his house was not a very nice road. It was bumpy. It was, not well paved, and no facilities were there in the place he lived. So as soon as he said, my dear king, I invite you to come over for lunch or dinner, and the king decided, yes, I will go. You're my friend. So immediately what happened, because the king is coming, all his entourage and security guards and everybody, they came to inspect. Where is the king coming? Does it have all the amenities that the king deserves? And they found out the road was bumpy. So they said, okay, we have to fix the road. So the whole road from the palace to the minister's house was completely paved and properly, fixed. The next thing, they found out that the minister's house wasn't comfortable enough for the king. So they came and fixed the house, made all the amenities available so the king can be very comfortable. Right? Like that, one after another, they made a lot of changes to that area. So, and especially the local leaders in the village of the minister, they were also like, oh, the king is coming, we have to show our best. So they started renovating a lot of the things and making things look good. So by the time the king came, the whole place was shining, spick and span. And the king came, he had food at the minister's house, and he left. But just by the king's friendship, so much changed, not for the minister only, but also for all the people around there. So I hope this story helps you understand what is happening in this particular verse when Krishna is saying that, I envy no one, nor am I partial to anyone. I'm equal to all, but whoever renders service unto me in devotion is a friend, is in me, and I'm also a friend to him. Right? So when Krishna becomes a friend to us, right? So he's impartial. So people do their karma, they get their results. But those who are Krishna's friends, they get something special, and that's what, right? Because when Krishna comes, all auspiciousness comes, Maya runs away, right? Difficulties become less. So by Krishna's presence alone, everything becomes sanctified and purified. So we don't have to ask Krishna for this and that, because by Krishna's presence alone, all the good things start happening. And enough, now Krishna in his next verse, this is a verse that is very mystical verse actually, as part of the confidential knowledge. But Krishna is saying, even if one commits the most abominable action, if he's engaged in devotional service, he's to be considered saintly because he's properly situated in his determination. So now, most abominable action can be what? It could be murder, it could be stealing, it could be really bad things, right? Hurting people, lying about people. But Krishna is saying if he's engaged in devotional service, he's to be considered saintly. What is going on here? A saintly person does something abominable. But if he's engaged in devotional service, he's to be considered saintly because he's properly situated in his determination. And in his next verse, Krishna says that he quickly becomes righteous and attains lasting peace. O son of Kunti, declare it boldly that my devotee never perishes. Okay. So these two verses are very, very misunderstood verses where one can think that, oh, Krishna is saying that my devotee, you can do all kinds of wrong things and you can get away with it. Is that what Krishna is saying? Right. What do you guys think? Any thoughts? Lakshmi Mataji or Mataji, any thoughts?
No, Prabhuji, it's very confusing.
Yeah, but I want you to see, when we're reading scriptures, we should use our intelligence and try to understand it. Of course, I'm there, but it's nice to kind of use our intelligence also from what we know, how we understand Krishna, to understand what he's saying. Neera Mataji, would you like to say something? You're always silent. And you're a teacher. So I know you were.
Prabhuji, okay.
I'm still, learner in this respect. I'm learning still.
But you have been a Krishna devotee for all your life. So you know Krishna. So what do you think this means? When Krishna is saying that one who's my devotee, even if he does some, abominable action, is engaged in devotional service, is to be considered saintly.
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Prabhuji, maybe that action which we considering as a wrong offense or action, maybe that is for the protection of dharma or something. Because if one is situated in the devotional service of Krishna, he might end up not doing any such thing which is not recognized or accepted by dharma or something like that.
Okay. All right. Indranath, thank you for joining on Bengali New Year. I was not expecting any Bengali devotees to join today. What do you think? What are your thoughts?
Prabhuji, I just think that Krishna is talking about the past, like as we know from the story Jagai Matai, like they were very much sinful, when they before they came to Krishna consciousness or before they got mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Krishna is basically telling that whoever comes to my shelter and whatever he has done in the past, that will be taken care by me.
Okay. All right. So let's see what Srila Prabhupada is saying. The word sudurachara, used in this verse is very significant. We should understand it properly. When a living entity is conditioned, he has two kinds of activities. One is conditional and the other one is constitutional. As for protecting the body or abiding by rules of society and state, Certainly, there are different activities, even for devotees, in connection with the conditional life. And such activities are called conditional. Besides these, the living entity who is fully conscious of his spiritual nature and is engaged in Krishna consciousness or devotional service to the Lord has activities which are called transcendental. Such activities are performed in his constitutional position, and they are technically called devotional service. So there are two kinds of activities: constitutional activities and conditional activities. Constitutional activities are activities of the soul, spiritual activities. Conditional activities are activities that, because we have this body, because we are in a conditioned state of mind, so accordingly we are compelled to do certain activities, right? And while we are doing those activities, sometimes what happens is we end up doing some mistakes. We end up falling prey to Maya, right? Yes, I want to follow four regulative principles, but somehow a situation arises and my past conditioning brings me to, like, I was addicted to, let's say, alcohol. And I happen to be in this cocktail party where a dear friend pushes me and I'm like, no, I don't drink anymore. But then, like, it's okay, just one sip. And then I feel bad about it and all of that stuff. So I'm not, that's the most abominable thing. Don't get me wrong. I'm not being judgmental. But let's say somebody, a person who's pursuing devotional service, a lot of times it happens is one falls prey to Maya and dips down in certain negative activities. And people around them will be like, haha, oh my God, such a great saintly person. Look what kind of a mistake they have done. But Krishna is saying, if the person is sincere in his devotional service, right, in the next verse, as we read, he quickly becomes righteous and attains lasting peace. So the word quickly here is shipram. Like very, very quickly, this person, very soon, right? Shipram bhavati dharmatma. So even if one falls prey to Maya and does some stupidity, some mistake, but because one is in devotional service, very quickly uplifts himself from that situation and continues in bhakti. That's what Krishna is referring to here. So one might, being in devotional journey doesn't mean it's a straight journey, just like the startup journey. For those of us doing it, it's not a straight journey, right? It's ups and downs, a roller coaster ride, constantly good things, bad things, good things, bad things, good things, bad things. Trying, progress, suddenly there's a corona, everything goes down, lockdown, problems, right? Stock market, same thing. So life is about that. And Krishna says that at the very beginning, chapter 2. He says that when the senses come in contact with the sense objects, there's two outcomes: happiness, distress. And they're constantly changing. If you're happy, know for a fact distress is coming. If you're distressed, know for a fact happiness is coming. So this is only expected. Change is the only constant, as we say. So given that understanding, it is only natural that when a bhakta or aspiring devotee is in the bhakti journey, although they're trying to follow all the rules, regulations, rituals, there will be times of provocation. There will be times of temptation when they will fall down. It is only natural. And Krishna is saying, but if you stick to the devotional rope, then quickly Krishna will pull us up and we will rise to the top again and again keep going towards Krishna's lotus feet. So this journey is not meant to be, or for very rare souls, it is a straight journey. For most of us, it's the ups and downs kind of a journey. And Krishna understands that, and he's encouraging us with his words. So important thing to understand here is not to be judgmental. A lot of times what happens is we see somebody struggling in their bhakti, right? They were a great devotee. And then we see, that devotee is now, oh, he is doing blah, blah, and blah. And we immediately start finding faults in them. Oh, this devotee is like this. Oh, did you know he also does that and this and this and that, right? Krishna is saying that if he's engaged in devotional service, he is to be considered saintly by who? To be considered saintly by us, the bystanders. Not necessarily he is saintly. Please understand. the person who has done a wrong activity. Yes, that is a wrong activity, and that, being a devotee doesn't make it right. But for those of us who are bystanders, if they see that devotee as like, oh, such a fallen soul, faulty, finding their faults, that is very detrimental for our devotional service. Finding faults, because that devotee, although he has done a wrong thing and might be suffering for that, but very quickly will go back to the lotus feet of Krishna. For the rest of the people who are finding faults in that person, might not, because they are doing something called Vaishnava Aparadh. Right? When we see a devotee struggling, that devotee, if they hold on to Krishna's lotus feet, Krishna will pull them up. But those who are finding faults and hurting that devotee, not sure if those devotees will stay in Krishna consciousness, because they have hurt Krishna by finding faults in that person. To Krishna, you can say anything to Krishna, he doesn't care as much as he cares about his devotees. If they are hurt, then Krishna really takes offense. And many times, those offenses are pretty much the end, the expiry date on one's devotional success. So it's important to understand that Krishna is talking about that it's not necessarily that if you've done a sin, you're not a sinful person, but you're to be considered a saintly person rather than a sinful person. So don't be judgmental of other people. I remember there was a group of students that came, and one of them was having some addictions. And one day he came to the temple, and as I was leaving the temple, a little far away, this is in Chicago, by the way, I saw him smoking outside. And I didn't see him after that for several weeks. So I asked some of his friends, why is he not coming? They said, he told us that you saw him smoking. He feels horrible that you saw him. And so that's why he's embarrassed to come in front of you and meet you. I'm like, oh, I saw him and it didn't even, change anything in my mind. I was like, okay, so he smokes. But Krishna consciousness is powerful. It'll anyway all go away. I know so many people with so many addictions that have been eradicated just by becoming Krishna conscious. Many of you have seen my video, right, on Alex. He had a stealing problem. Now he works for the Chicago Police Department. That's how magical and transformative Krishna consciousness is. So the point is, for me, I'm not a judgmental person. And by default, by training, I'm not judgmental because Krishna says so, right? Because in Krishna's eyes, somebody who's chanted even one round is a devotee. So it's not like only like initiated devotees, sannyasis, and whatnot. Anybody who has chanted Krishna's name, is in that process. So there is no, judgmental aspect that, oh, you're like this and you're like that. It's like, hey, we are who we are. By our karma, we are conditioned in a certain way. And because we are conditioned, we are supposed to act in a certain way, but we are struggling. We are really taking some steps to get out of that conditioned nature into the constitutional nature, as Srila Prabhupada rightly puts it. Right? The constitutional nature of the soul is to what? What's the constitutional nature of the soul? Shivam?
I'm not sure about the answer.
Just say it, whatever you think it is. No one is judging you, Shivam, like I said.
Yes.
What's the constitutional nature of the soul? You know the answer, just say it. There's no right or wrong answer.
Okay, so the random guess to find the supreme, like go towards the supreme,
Yeah,
find Krishna.
exactly. To love Krishna.
Yeah.
See, you know the answer. I knew you know the answer.
Okay.
Yeah, don't get scared about being technicalities and all that. That's not what is here for. You're hearing so much, you already know. Okay. Anybody else wants to answer that question? What's the constitutional nature of the soul? Indranath?
To be spiritual.
Okay. Janak Prabhu?
Hare Krishna. To serve Lord Krishna.
Yeah. Jivara Swarup hai Krishna Nitya Das. to serve Krishna. That's the constitutional nature of the soul. So either we are acting constitutionally or we are acting conditionally. So given our karma baggage, sometimes we act conditionally, sometimes we act constitutionally. We're hearing about Krishna consciousness. So the constitutional aspect is generally less at the beginning. It's more the conditional aspect. The materialistic stuff, the Maya stuff, more so. A little bit of Krishna, Krishna. And then eventually, Krishna, 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 Maya, Maya. Krishna, 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 Maya. Krishna, 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 no Maya. Right? Slowly, slowly, Maya dissolves out somewhere and Krishna fills up our life. And that's when one is considered a pure devotee, because there is no amalgamation, there is no impurity. It's pure Krishna consciousness. But initially, that's not the case. Initially, we have our addictions, we have our tendencies, we have our problems. And as we go through bumps and hurdles, all we got to do is hold on to Krishna's lotus feet. Krishna, please, I beg you, don't let me go. I am struggling. Please help me. Please empower me to walk through this journey because I have these baggage. Please help me. I'll give you some nice stories today. So as ISKCON, as you know, was being built, Srila Prabhupada was setting it up. It was built by mostly hippies. And many of these hippies came from very interesting, let's say, very interesting backgrounds, right? So one such person is Mother Malati. So today she is a governing body commissioner of Michigan and amazing devotee, has done amazing things for ISKCON. But her beginning was, she and her husband, they were selling a lot of things, including some controlled substances, let's put it that way, right? So drug dealing and other things. Not Mother Malati necessarily, but her husband was doing the Shamsundar Prabhu. I have heard that he was doing that. So they both come from that background, and there was a little bit of stealing also. That was part of their character trait. So one day she went to an Indian store with all Indian artifacts, and she saw a little, Jagannath, but she didn't know what Jagannath was. So she just took it and like, oh, Swamiji will be happy. Prabhupada was called Swamiji at the time. So she said, Swamiji will be happy. So she took little Jagannath and brought him to Srila Prabhupada. And Prabhupada was like, oh, immediately fell on the feet, paid obeisances to Jagannath and said, wow, the Lord has come. Malati, go to the store again. There is two more you will find. One is white in color, similar looking, and one is yellow. So Baladev and Subhadra. Now Mother Malati was like, oh God, I stole Jagannath. Now how do I go back? So like that, she brought them and we had Jagannath, Baladev, Subhadra, installed. They were made by Shamsundar Prabhu, her husband, carved in San Francisco. And they were the first Rath Yatra that happened in San Francisco. So, but it was started with stealing. Now one day, the stealing habit was there, right? So one day Srila Prabhupada is looking from the balcony and he sees, so at that time, these carts would come by. And the carts had butter, they would carry butter. Just like over here, we have vegetable carts and things like that. So in San Francisco, they had butter carts. So Srila Prabhupada saw that Mother Malati was running behind the cart and she took some of the butter and put it in her sari and came back. And Prabhupada was like, what is going on? Did she steal? And then Srila Prabhupada talked to her. Like, can you tell Malati to come and meet me? The Prabhupada asked, what were you doing there? And Malati was very ashamed. But then ISKCON didn't have money at the time. And, she was basically like just trying. So Prabhupada saw that she was feeling embarrassed. So he didn't want to like put her down. So he laughed and he said, oh, Krishna was also a butter thief, right? But she understood that she shouldn't have done that. So Prabhupada didn't directly chastise her. But he made her understand that that was not the right thing to do. And when she was feeling really bad, Prabhupada said Krishna was also a butter thief. Do not put her spirits down. And thereafter, she never did any of that stuff again. And of course, Krishna consciousness transformed her to this amazing saintly person that she and her husband are. And for those of you who don't know, they built the London temple. They built many other temples around the ISKCON world and has been amazing in terms of building the movement. But yeah, the initial days, Shamsundar Prabhu was arrested one day, for the drug dealing aspect that he did before Krishna consciousness. He was arrested. But then by Krishna's mercy, he and his wife both were released very easily. Like Malati Mataji was in jail. Srila Prabhupada came back from India with sari for her. It's like he's giving gifts to all his disciples. It's like, where is Malati? Oh, she's in jail. I'm like, really? She's in jail? Oh, that's sad. Why? Because before Krishna consciousness, she was, drug dealing and things like that. So then Prabhupada said, well, he said something, I don't remember, but he said something powerful at that time. And somehow Mother Malati, her behavior was good and all the good stuff. The judge just said, you know what, you're released. And it was not even her time. But very quickly, within days of Prabhupada saying that, she was released from prison. She came running to Srila Prabhupada. And Prabhupada said, oh, Malati, I was missing you. They said, you're in jail. I was feeling bad. I got you a sari. Here you go. And he was zero judgment. Like people would be like, you come from jail. Oh my God, I want to talk to you. You're a criminal. But Prabhupada was like, you're my daughter. Whatever you've done in the past is past. But, now you're Krishna's devotee and Krishna will take care of you. And so, life after life transformed. Chandramouli Maharaj, literally, his picture was on a magazine where he was shooting, from a helicopter in the Vietnam War. He was in the US Army. That's what I've heard, that there's a picture of him shooting from the helicopter. And he came to Krishna consciousness. This is how, he was, he was, I think, his helicopter or his jet, whatever he was flying, it was hit by a missile. And before hitting that, there's a button, I'm sure you've seen in movies, right? You hit on the button and the whole seat jumps out into a parachute and you are saved while the aircraft crashes. So before hitting that button, Chandramouli Maharaj said, if there is a God and I am alive, I will dedicate the rest of my life to finding you, knowing you, and serving you. And with that, he hit the button. Of course, he's got saved, a parachute, he fell, everything okay, but he kept his word. He came back to America, joined the Hare Krishna movement, and today he's a guru, sannyasi, and a wonderful, wonderful person. He had to have a very sweet relationship. So, so it doesn't matter. We have whatever karma we have. Krishna is not judgmental. We have whatever tendencies we have. Krishna is not judgmental. It's not the biblical God who's like, you're going to hell eternally, you're going to heaven. No, Krishna is not like that. He's supremely powerful and he is very partial to his devotees. Right? One who even strives a little bit in that direction of Krishna consciousness, Krishna can transform them like that. And all these tendencies in the heart that are negative can be uprooted very, very easily. Okay, I want to pause here. I want to see those two verses that were very controversial. Anybody wants to ask any question about that? Okay, if there are no questions, we will move on. So Prabhupada in the Narasimha Purana, he gives the following verse: Bhagavati cha harav ananya cheta vrisha malino pi virajate manusya nahi shasha kalusha chabihi kadachit timira para bhavatam upayati chandraha. The meaning is that even if one fully engaged in devotional service of the Lord, sometimes found engaged in abominable activities, these activities should be considered to be like the spots that resemble the mark of a rabbit on the moon. Such spots do not become an impediment in the diffusion of moonlight. Similarly, the accidental fall down of a devotee from the path of saintly character does not make him abominable. So many times devotees have accidental fall downs, and like I said, but when one holds on to Krishna's lotus feet, one comes up. So I'll give another example. There was, let me think of who I give. Krishna Prabhu, you want to share something? You want to give an example?
No, Prabhu, you please continue.
I know Krishna Prabhu is a very wonderful devotee from Hyderabad. And he told me very specifically, Prabhu, I'll join the class, but you will not ask me to speak. So I'll respect his request. But there are many instances, I'll give an instance from our scriptures itself. So there was this Mrigari the hunter. You guys know the story of Mrigari the hunter? If you don't know, say no in the chat section. If you know it, say yes. Then I'll not repeat if everybody knows the story. No. Okay. You guys don't know. Okay, fine. So there was a hunter named Mrigari. Mrigari used to half kill his animals. So he was basically hunting animals and then he would eat them. So he would half kill the animals, and watch them bleed to death. And that suffering that the animal would go through, Mrigari would enjoy that. Somehow he was a little sadistic. So one day Narad Muni came. Narad Muni saw what he was doing and said, there's tremendous karma in what you're doing. Why don't you just fully kill the animal? Why are you half killing it? There's a lot of suffering that you have to go through for being such a cruel human being. And he's like, well, I'm doing this to sustain my family. Sometimes people use excuses, right? So he's like, I'm doing this to sustain my family. This is my profession. I'm a hunter. I'm just having a little fun, killing these animals in a cruel way. So Narad Muni said, well, you're doing this for your family. Will your family take the karma, for the thing that you're doing? Will this take your suffering? Will they share your suffering? They said, of course, they'll share my suffering. Why not? We'll divide it equally. It's like, okay, why don't you go ask your family if they will take on your karma? He said, very well. So he went to his family. He asked his wife, children, I am killing all these animals to sustain you guys. You guys will take my karma, of course, right? They're like, no. It's your duty to sustain us. That's your job. But why should we take your negative karma? Sorry, your karma is yours. You're half killing these animals, torturing them. That's your karma. We're not willing to take it. And that was an eye-opener for Mrigari. He came back to Narad Muni. He said, whoa, I thought I'm doing it for them, but apparently they don't care. What should I do? Narad Muni said, you should chant the holy name of Krishna. Purify your existence, and this tendency in the heart of being cruel to animals will go away. So Mrigari decided to do that. He took Narad Muni as his guru, and he started chanting the holy name, and time passed by. One day, Narad Muni and Parvat Muni, and Krishna Prabhu, please correct me if I'm wrong on the details, please. So Narad Muni and Parvat Muni, I think, was it Parvat Muni or somebody else?
Yeah, Parvat Muni.
Yeah. So they were walking down, and Parvat Muni sees that this person is running in weird ways towards Narad Muni. He's like, who is that guy? Narad Muni says, he's one of my disciples. His name is Mrigari. He's like, but why is he walking like that? So Mrigari was, stepping one foot this way, one foot that way. He was walking in a weird way where it was not a straight line. So he said, Narad Muni told Parvat Muni, why don't you ask him directly? And Narad Muni told him, he used to be a hunter. Now he's a devotee of Krishna. So Parvat Muni said, why were you walking like that? So Mrigari responded saying, oh, there were ants all over the road. I was walking like that to make sure I don't step on any ant. Right? So that is the transformation of a person by coming in contact with Krishna consciousness. That a person who was half killing animals and watching and enjoying their pain, the same person has become so careful that he doesn't want to even step on an ant or to talk about animals. That much compassionate. So these kind of transformations are very much possible. And it is bound to happen if one sticks to the principles of Krishna consciousness. But guess what? Those who are fault finders, they are the ones who are getting the negative aspect. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who is the guru of Srila Prabhupada, one time what happened, one of his disciples did a faulty activity. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was a very strong personality. Srila Prabhupada is known to be a little bit more lenient, but Bhaktisiddhanta was called the Singha Guru, very, very lion-like personality, very strong personality. He would say things as it is, logically, break people. He was very feisty, kind of, warrior kind of a saint. So his rules were also very strict, but one of his disciples made some fault and ran away from his entourage. And the devotee started telling all kinds of negative things about him. So he felt embarrassed, depressed, and he ran away. So Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur heard about that. He said, oh, you guys have ruined his Krishna conscious life. He could have fixed himself, come back and reinstated himself back in service. But because you found fault in him, he's now not going to show his face. And that hurts me very much. So recently, or right after that, there was supposed to be an inauguration of a big temple. For those of you in Bengal, Bhagavad. So Bhagavad Gauriya Math, which is supposed to be Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's most prized, biggest achievement, almost temple. And he was like, I'm not going to go to the inauguration ceremony unless you can find that boy and bring him to me. And I can make him feel that he is, in a comfortable environment. So devotees were like in big stress, like, oh, this guy is gone. We don't even know where he lives. This is a big city, Calcutta. How will we find him? So one of them remembered that he used to be good with watch fixing. So they started going to all the watch repair shops in Calcutta, and finally they found this devotee. And as soon as this devotee saw other Vaishnavas, he was hiding his face. It's like, hope they don't see me. And they said, oh, thank God, finally we found you. Please come back to Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Your guru wants to see you. He said, what? I did some abominable activity that nobody wants to talk to me. Everybody is finding faults with me. My guru would be the last person who wants to see me. Like, no. He is so eager to see you that he has said he won't come to the opening of Bhagavad Gauriya Math unless you come to him. Without your presence, he won't do the opening ceremony. So he had tears in his eyes. He was crying. It's like, wow, how merciful is my Guru Maharaj. So he came back, and of course, he was reinstated back in Krishna consciousness. So we make mistakes. And Krishna, being the perfect teacher, the perfect father, the perfect personality, he's not judgmental as long as we're not cheating him. The other side is also true. When we are cheating Krishna, right, knowingly, we are repeating our mistakes, knowingly we are doing things like, oh, I'll chant Hare Krishna, it'll be okay. That is a problem, and that's offense. In the 10 offenses to the holy name, that is one of the strongest offenses, when we are repeatedly abusing the fact that we are devotees. Krishna understands if we are, under Maya and we are conditioned, and that tendencies in the heart is so strong, we couldn't fight it and we fell, right? But if we are just like, it's okay, if we are negligent, we are lethargic, we are like, I'll just do this nonsense and chant Hare Krishna, everything will be okay. That's a problem. Because then it becomes like, oh, I'll go do a murder and I'll just chant Hare Krishna, it'll be okay. No, that's not okay, right? Accidental fall downs are okay as long as we are steadfast in our Krishna consciousness. But when we are not Krishna conscious, that means when we are not actually steadfast in our sadhana, we're not even trying to be devotees. We are just trying to take advantage or hacking the system in one sense. Krishna is a much stronger hacker than we can ever be. So if we try to cheat Krishna, he is the biggest cheater. He can cheat us back. He has so much intelligence that we will be defeated. So it is recommended we don't try to cheat Krishna. We sincerely try to become devotees. And in the sincere path of devotion, if there are fall downs, Krishna is saying, Shipram, very quickly, I will reinstate you back as a devotee. And such persons should be considered saintly, regardless of their fall down, if they are in the path. But yes, if one is cheating the system, then this doesn't apply. Any questions or concerns? Or anything you want to share or add to it? Janak Prabhu, I know you're itching.
No, Prabhu, I think this time I'm completely in sync with what
You don't have to put your intelligence to fall asleep just because last time I was a little heavy on you. Please feel free to, question. I don't want you to stop asking questions just because I was a little challenging with you last time.
No, Prabhu, not at all. I mean, in fact, after that conversation, I had so many realizations that I can't explain. So many positive realizations. So,
Oh, I'm so happy to hear that. I'm happy to hear that. I just didn't feel, because I'm generally quite soft, but sometimes I can be a little heavy. But that heaviness should not be seen as I'm upset. It's just I'm trying to, help you come back on the path. That's all.
So nice to have somebody who tells the truth, not else the sweet sugar coated.
Exactly. And if I can't tell you guys the truth, then who should I? Because outside world, I have to be all sugar coated. But within Philosophy Friday, I am as honest as I can be. I am as controversial as I can be. That's why these recordings don't go out on my YouTube channel publicly, right? Because I am as honest as it can be. And not everybody who understands Krishna consciousness can understand this, right? But one who understands Krishna consciousness, been through all the previous chapters, can appreciate what we are hearing in the most confidential chapter, the most confidential knowledge. All right. Okay. There are no questions, then I'll keep moving. Shipram bhavati dharmatma shashvach chantim nigachati kaunteya pratijanehi name bhakta pranashyati. So, whenever I feel a little low in my Krishna consciousness, this last part of this verse is very inspiring to me. So he says, he quickly becomes righteous and attains lasting peace. So that part is Krishna's encouraging. The one who has done the most abominable activity, if he is in Krishna consciousness, he should be seen as a saint, and he quickly becomes righteous and attains lasting peace. Great. And then Krishna says, O son of Kunti, Kaunteya, Pratijanehi, Name Bhakta Pranashyati, that declare it boldly that my devotee never perishes. Now, I want to get a little dramatic here, okay? Here is what's happening. So there was this, in our disciplic succession, Guru Shishya Parampara, Srila Prabhupada, Bhakti Siddhanta, like that, there was this Acharya named Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur was extremely empowered, and he wrote, like Prabhupada wrote purports, he also wrote purports. And his specialty was he could actually talk to certain personalities. So if you go to Radhakund in Vrindavan, in Radhakund, there are multiple trees that are considered multiple personalities, like the Pandavas. The Pandavas are there in the form of tree. And there was a Bhima tree. Again, Krishna Prabhu, correct me if I'm saying anything wrong. There's a Bhima tree, and that Bhima tree would talk to Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. So whenever he had a doubt about writing a Bhagavad Gita purport or something, he would ask Bhima, like, is this the right understanding? Is this how it happened? And he would get the corrections or the validations, right? And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur also had the gift where he could visualize, be in the moment, how things happened. So he gives not only what is given in the text, but what is happening on the battlefield. So in his purport about this particular verse, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur describes that Krishna thumps his chest like this, and he says, declare it boldly, O Kaunteya, that my devotees shall never be vanquished. So it's a very powerful statement. Here is why. Because Krishna is known to be a butter thief. Krishna's character is not the most clear like Lord Ramachandra, right? Krishna is known for lying. Krishna is known for breaking the rules, right? He's partial to his devotees. But one thing Krishna is also known for, and that is Bhakta Vatsala. So Krishna might break his own promise. But if his devotee makes a promise, Krishna will uphold that promise. That is also a fact, right? Devotee might make a mistaken promise, but he will upload. Like Lord Shiva or Lord Brahma sometimes gives these benedictions to devotees. And then they're like, oh God, what do I do? Right? And Krishna comes to make sure that, like, for example, Lord Shiva, Krishna, who did Lord Shiva bless? And that person was given the blessing that whoever's head he would touch, the head would explode.
Not Bhasmasur, but he has another name in
Anyway,
Bhagavatam.
so there was a personality. There was a demon who was a great devotee of Lord Shiva, and he kept on, doing all kinds of tapasya. I think he was cutting his flesh and putting it in the fire, offering it to Lord Shiva and be like, Lord Shiva, please, I need this benediction. Finally, Lord Shiva came down and he said, what can I do for you? And he said, I want a benediction where I can touch the head of somebody and the head would explode. So Lord Shiva finally just gave that benediction, and he said, oh, thank you very much. Let me try to, test it on you first, Lord Shiva. And Lord Shiva was like, oh God. So he started running. Lord Shiva is running, and this demon is running after Lord Shiva with his hands like, I'm going to touch your head, touch your head. And so Krishna comes to the scene. Bhasmasura, okay. Krishna comes to the scene as a little Brahmin boy, and he asks Bhasmasura, like, oh, what are you doing? He's like, oh, I'm going after Lord Shiva, trying to test this power he just gave me. So, oh, Lord Shiva gave you the power, then it won't work. Like, what do you mean? He's like, Lord Shiva's blessings don't generally work. You try it on your own head, see, nothing will happen. And the stupid demon, put this on his head, and his own head exploded. And Lord Shiva was like, so like that, even Lord Brahma, gave benediction to Hiranyakashipu. It's like, I cannot give you benediction for immortality, but yeah, you cannot be killed by any weapons. You won't be killed at day or night. You won't be killed by any humans or animals. Like that, whatever conditions Hiranyakashipu put in, Brahma gave that. And then the Supreme Lord had to take care of things. He came as Narsinghadev, and they killed Hiranyakashipu on his lap, not on the ground, not on the sky, not during day, not during night, at dusk time, etc. Right? All the conditions fulfilled. So like that, Krishna is known that he might break his promise, but he will never break the promise of his devotees if they make a promise. So that's why he's telling Arjuna, you declare it boldly, that my devotees shall never be vanquished. And that's a very powerful statement, that as long as we stay devotees of Krishna, as long as we are in the devotional umbrella, Krishna will slap us back into action. If we try to move out, yeah, we might fall down, and Krishna will slap us back into his lotus feet. But if we say, Krishna, I don't want you, I don't want this devotional service, I don't want anything to do with you, then Krishna is like, okay, the door is open. And we might see them prosper materially or not, but the devotional life comes to a pause there. Now, it's not an end, it's not a full stop, it's a pause. Many people have gone through that, especially when Srila Prabhupada left this planet. Many devotees were like, okay, I'm done with this. I'm moving on to rock and roll, drugs, hippie lifestyle, But somehow or other, they saw there was no happiness there. There was much more happiness in spiritual life. So after 20, 30 years of again going into all of that, they have come back to Krishna consciousness and again serving blissfully, chanting blissfully, being a devotee blissfully, right? So that has also, so it's a pause. If somebody decides, and I know many of us here, even over here, might not continue in Krishna consciousness for a little bit of time, but I promise you, you will come back. As long as in your heart, you don't hate Krishna, in your heart, you have some love for Krishna, some attraction for devotional things, somehow or other, Krishna will bring us back to his lotus feet in this life or next life, but he will certainly bring us back, because this tiny seed of devotion, bhakti, that is there, for which we are spending Friday evening together learning Bhagavad Gita and not doing anything else that we could be doing, that dedication, that devotion is not going to go to waste. Even if we quit today, I'm not saying you should, but in case we do, somehow or other, that's a pause. And then when we come, somehow Krishna orchestrates ways and we come back and we'll start from where we left off. That's Krishna's promise also, right? As we have read in the Bhagavad Gita. So we don't start from zero again. There's no loss or diminution in this process. Chapter 2, text 40, Krishna says, Swalpam apyasya hi dharmasya trayato mahate bhayat. Right? Swalpam, little bit in this direction, all the worst fears, what would happen? Gone. Because you're not going to hell. Don't worry. If one has tasted prasadam, one has seen Krishna's face, one has said Krishna once, all that negative, like the worst fear is gone. Now the question is, will I be born in a very rich family? Will I be born in a devotee family? Will I be born in a Brahmin family? Or will I be born at all? Or will I go back to Godhead? Those are the options. Those are good choices to have, right? The choice is not like, where am I going to be burnt in pakora style, being fried in hot burning oil in hell. No, that's not for us, as long as we have done something devotion. So swalpam hi apyasya dharmasya trayato mahate bhayat. So little bit of devotion and all that fearful things are gone. Now, from here on, as depending on our propensity, depending on our desire to be with Krishna, how strong or how weak, how much we surrender, how much we don't, how much association we take or not, based on that, how quickly or how slowly we go towards Krishna. So it's not a matter of time, it's a matter of intensity. As we intensify our bhakti, accordingly, it speeds up the process of cleansing, these tendencies in the heart for which we do the abominable activity, that cleansing happens. It's called anartha nivritti, right? So this anartha nivritti happens as quickly, depending directly proportional to the intensity of our bhakti. Intensity doesn't mean instead of 16 rounds, I'm chanting 64 rounds, but how intensely, how focused am I chanting my 16 rounds? How intensely am I dedicated to, remembering Krishna throughout the day? How intensely am I dedicated to applying the principles of bhakti in my life, etc. We all have problems. And it might seem like this person is doing this much and this person is doing this much. Again, that's not how Krishna sees it. Krishna says, with your all the problems, you're doing this much. I appreciate you. And with all the free time you have, you're doing this much. I appreciate you too. Just like Lord Ramachandra with the squirrel, right? The squirrel was carrying little pebbles and throwing it in the ocean to build the bridge. And Hanuman is taking massive rocks and throwing it in the ocean to build the bridge. And Hanuman is like, squirrel, get out of the way. You're not doing anything useful anyway. So why are you coming in my way? And Lord Ramachandra says, hold on, Hanuman. You are doing according to your capacity. Squirrel is doing according to squirrel's capacity. To me, both are equal. I see both of you equally serving to the best of your ability. It's just you have more ability, but to the best of your ability, that's how you two are serving. To my eyes, you're both the same. That's how the Supreme Lord thinks. That's how he is non-judgmental. And if you make mistakes, it's like, it's okay. I'll help you through it. It's okay. I will correct your path, right? And slowly, we get slapped back into the right action. Okay, we have 2 minutes left. Any burning questions? Anything, any realization, anything? All right, thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Hare Krishna, have a good night, everyone.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.